And good evening. Welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. He is back. Made me go solo last week. Well, you didn't make me go solo. No, I decided to go solo because nobody can fill the shoes of Jeff Gress. And Jeff, good to have you back.
Thank you. That's the nicest thing you've said to me in a while. So I appreciate that. And yeah, get back and have it. I appreciate you covering for me and filling the void. So it's all good.
Well,
all good.
I'm not going to pay you for last week, though. You know, so if you're expecting to pay for last week, you are not getting it.
Sounds good. Well, those other checks must be in the mail because I haven't seen one yet. So.
They'll be arriving. Okay. They're only a couple of years late right now, but we'll get them to you. Coming up on the program, a couple of special guests. Our coach guest this week from Mosinee High School. Matt Lindsey, head coach of the Mosinee Indians, having a very good season right now in first place in the Great Northern Conference. So we'll talk to the Mosinee headman coming up at 6:20. And speaking of somebody having a good season, our student athlete guest, Grant Warren from the Marathon Red Raiders, having a fantastic season, averaging a double-double. In fact, he is the leading scorer, rebounder, and even assist man for the Marathon Red Raiders. Had 29 points last night in the Red Raider win at Newman. So Grant Warren will be our guest coming up at 7 o'clock. Let's jump into boys high school basketball. And starting with the Wisconsin Valley Conference, for the first time this season, there's a little bit of a gap at the top. As Marshfield, 8-0 in the conference, 17-1 overall, still leading the way. Then comes Wausau East and Stevens Point. Both the Lumberjacks and the Panthers are 5-2 in the conference. East is 13-3 overall. Stevens Point 16-2. Wausau West is currently 4th in the conference, 4-4. They're 12-6 overall. Then Rapids at 2-5 in conference, 6-11 overall. DC Everest 1-6 in the conference, 6-12 overall. Merrill 0-6 in the league, 6-10 overall. Looking at Marshfield, talk about a good week. They had a very good week. 3 conference games, 3 victories. Went to Everest last Friday. Evergreens, it was a tough week for them last week. Had a couple of very tight games. Unfortunately for them, not able to win, but as we'll talk about, they were able to turn that around. But last Friday, Marshfield defeated Everest 46-42. Brooks Hinson 20, Landon Lee 15 for Marshfield. Xavier Edwards and Casey Studeman 16 each for the Evergreens. Then on Monday, the first of the major clashes in the conference between Marshfield and Stevens Point. And Marshfield came from behind, beat Stevens Point on the road, 51-47. Spash led 26-19 at halftime, and then Marshfield outscored the Panthers 32-21 in the second half. Hinson again 20, Landon Lee 12, Chris Pohl 11. Grant Shadina had the lion's share of the Stevens Point offense with 23 points. And then finally last night, Marshfield right back at it after that big win against Stevens Point. Beat Wisconsin Rapids 64-44. And again, it was the second half for Marshfield. It was only a 4-point game at the intermission. Marshfield outscored Rapids 33-17 in the second half. 4 players in double digits for Marshfield. And Brooks Hinson, who's been their top scorer, had only 4 points, and yet they were able to find a way. Brody Gilbertson 16 for Rapids. But starting with Marshfield, doesn't get much better than that, does it?
No, I mean, anytime you can play a lot of basketball in a short amount of days and just keep the steady train rolling. I mean, you watch them. I've been fortunate enough to catch a couple tail end of their games or watch them against other teams in the conference. It's just balance. They it's not like they're, if you watch them, they're not going to surprise you with a bunch of stuff, but they're going to wear you down. And I thought that's what happened with Spash. Spash seemed in control, and then all of a sudden the defense got after a little harder, and a couple turnovers came from Spash. Marshfield took advantage of it. I just think they're balanced attack. They can shoot the ball really well. Some of their bigs, as much as they can hit from the inside on some little jumpers, they get to the basket. And it got a handful of kids that can put the ball in the basket. So for them, just this consistency is what has that unblemished mark in the conference. They just they're always hanging around. Nothing's too far out of reach. They're not making too many mistakes that consistently will hurt them down the floor where the lead will get too far out of hand. And then they just take advantage of that spot in the game where they can transition well off the other team's turnovers or mistakes, and then they get you. And then when they get the lead, they don't relinquish it. Those games I've seen, they hold on to it. So, they're doing well. They couple of tight wins on the road, I think, which is a big deal going forward. Those last 3 victories have come on the road in the Valley.
Yeah, I mean, that is a good week. Some of the other action in the Valley, let me just recap it, and then we'll talk about the teams. Last Friday, Stevens Point, really good win against West. West have been playing some pretty good basketball, and Spash beat the Warriors 71-53. Baraka McAleen had 20, Jaron Seas 18 for Spash, Lucas Hager 14, Bennett Matson 11 for the Warriors. Saturday, Merrill defeated Newman Catholic, getting back on the winning track, 72-61. E.J. Wykes, 26. Tyson Ott, freshman, with 18. Quincy Fender, 23. Lucas Piffner, 14 for the Cards. Monday night, Merrill back in the conference, and they lost to Wisconsin Rapids, 64-51. And then last night, in addition to the Marshfield win against Rapids, DC Everest, a really good win at Mosinee, 77-71. Casey Studeman, 24 points. Cade Felch and Cohen Preby each had 18. Everest was good from beyond the arc, 11 of 22 from three-point range. Xavier Edwards had 8 points and 12 rebounds. For the Indians, for the Evergreens, Colin Ebersold, 8 points, 10 rebounds. Keegan Jershely had 24 points. Landon Tomer, 16. Aiden Shaughnessy, 15 for Mosinee. Last night, a good win for West in a battle with a great Northern Conference team. Medford, who we'll talk about in a little bit, had a big win on Friday. But West beat Medford 56-45 last night. Brett Butala, 20 points. Karji Cooper, 13 for West. Tanner Robbie, 21 for Medford. And then last night, another non-conference win for the Merrill Blue Jays. They earned a 1-point win, 50-49 over Antigo. So you look at it. East did not play last week, so we didn't hear anything. They're still 5-2, 13-3. Spash, 16-2 on the season, but now some work to do in the Valley. And then you got West, 12-6 overall, and then everyone else trying to get going. But even those bottom teams, good win for Rapids on Monday against Merrill. Really good win for Everest, who's been playing exceptionally competitive basketball against really good teams like East. What a heartbreaker that was. And then even against Marshfield. So I think each of these teams, then Merrill had the 2 wins in the non-conference. So every one of these teams, I think, had something they could grab a hold of in the past week or so.
Well, and at this point in the season, that's what you're looking to do. I mean, we're in February tomorrow, so before you know it, those playoffs are going to hit. There's still games that it can help teams advance farther in their seedings, and there's still implications there that can be a big deal. So these teams got to play and get as many W's as they can. I guess starting towards the top, obviously we talked that East was dormant because they had the postponement with Merrill last week in their conference games, and they have a big one that we'll talk about coming up with Marshfield. But for Spash, I think for them, they came off the win against West last Friday, but then a little bit tested. They had Marshfield who they had the upper hand. When I turned the game on, they were in control, and then I think, like I said, Marshfield just kept chipping away, and it came off turnovers or a couple one shot and done type of situations, and Marshfield just took advantage of that. So, a little bit of climbing now with Marshfield getting that separation for Spash. For West, a couple, for conference, tough loss to Spash, obviously by more of a margin than you'd probably want, but Spash came out and handled it, and then turn around and get a nice win against Medford. I think that's a big deal, especially if I'm correct, my timeline there. Did Medford beat Mosinee and then lost to West?
Yeah. No. Yes, Medford beat Mosinee last Friday. And then
lost
West.
to West, correct?
Yeah.
So for West to come off after,
it would have been very special. I'm going to get on here real fast. It would have been very special if West would have beat Medford before Medford had beat Mosinee, since the game was last night.
Yeah. Right. No.
I'm being a hard. I'm just kidding.
No, I follow you. I'm just trying to get my timeline because I don't have the date written down on that one. So, anyways, for Medford to for West to come back and grab that one after they've applied some momentum with the Mosinee win. I think that's a nice win in their own gymnasium. And as you mentioned, the teams that are kind of clinging just to get wins as the tail end here, with Rapids picking one up against Merrill. Everest, they're what we talked about earlier on. They're competitive. They've lost a couple tight ones and been in some close games. And finally, some of that has come to a culmination in the win against Mosinee, where they played very well and got that W. So a lot of solid wins. And this is what you want in your conference as the race comes down the stretch, is people feeling confident in their play to make the best battles no matter what ranking you have right now in your conference.
Great Northern Conference. Mosinee and Rhinelander now tied for first at 6-1. Mosinee 14-3 overall. Rhinelander 10-6. Medford 5-2 in the conference, 7-9 overall. Lakeland 5-3 in the conference, 9-7 overall. Antigo and Northern Pines both 2-6, and Tomahawk 0-7 in the conference. In the big game to talk about Friday, there were 3 games within the conference. Lakeland beat Antigo 58-38. Rhinelander beat Pines 60-43. But the game that really was the big one was Medford in that gym. That's such a tough place to play. They earned the big win, handing Mosinee their first loss, 73-70. Tanner Robbie, 28 points. Landon Tomer, 23. Keegan Jersley, 19 for Mosinee. But despite their losing record, and again, Medford has played a lot of tough non-conference games. They play a lot of the Big River schools often, but that's a significant game, and that puts Mosinee right back in that mix, and that actually gets Medford back into the mix in the conference.
Well, and there could be more separation too, because one of the next games coming either Thursday is Medford and Rhinelander play each other, so you're going to have what you want from a fan perspective, maybe not a coach perspective or team or player perspective yet, because you want control, especially late in the season. And that's the beauty of how great these conferences are and these rivalries are and these teams they are. Things can happen in people's gyms. You got tough places to play. You got different student sections drawing on the teams. And nothing's ever easy and nothing's ever guaranteed. So while teams like Mosinee are still playing very good basketball, got a great record, doing really well, a dangerous deep team, I think, in terms of their roster. Still, 2 other teams creating things that are happening. Right, Rhinelander's going to have to try to own their spot, as well as Medford. Maybe hitting a late season bloom despite having a tougher test with their non-conference games.
We'll find out more about Mosinee coming up with Coach Matt Lindsey in just a few minutes here on the program. Merriwood South got Marathon still rolling, 11-0 in the conference, 16-1 overall. Auburn Hill right on their heels, 10-1 in the conference, 14-2 overall. Edgar 8-3 in the conference, 13-4 overall. Stratford now 4th in the league, 7-4, 13-5 overall. Assumption 4-7, 6-10, and Newman Catholic 1-10 in the conference, 2-15 overall. Looking at some of the action, last Thursday, Stratford beat Assumption 60-44. Drew Brusewitz, 15 points for the Tigers. Jack Wiedmeyer had 16 for Assumption. Friday night, Marathon beat Edgar 58-40. Big game for Grant Warren, 21 points, 14 rebounds. Tyler Underwood had 13 points for Marathon. Stratford over Colby in a non-conference game Friday, 82-50. Brady Schmidt, 26 points. And then last night, full night of Merriwood South action. Game that we had right here on WXCO. Marathon beat Newman, 83-42. Grant Warren, 29 points. Quincy Fender, 23 for Newman. Edgar, big win over Stratford, 60-49. And Auburndale rolled past Assumption, 77-39. Evan Scholl, 28 points and 9 rebounds. But Marathon and Auburndale both looking very impressive and a big win for Edgar.
Yeah, I've seen Marathon play a couple times. They just a lot of good inside-out game, the extra pass that comes with that team, the discipline on defense. They're tough to beat because they've got strong guards, quick guards. They got good play out of their sophomores. And obviously you got the big guy in the middle that just changes a game with the way, with that size. It's a difference maker. For Auburndale, just again, steady, hanging around, 10-1 over or in the conference, and showed that they where they deserve to be over against at Assumption, And I think for Edgar, 13-4 overall, 8-3 in the conference, I think it's a big deal where they stand, making coaching changes and having a co-head coach. It's a little different management style, and it's working for them. That's a good, significant win against Stratford, who's always well coached and always well prepared by Coach Schmidt. And for Stratford, they're always trying to get a little bit more out of the kids. And I know he said that we're kind of at a certain level. We got some things to work on, and that comes in some of the games that you're seeing in some of the scores. And as for Newman, yet still looking to kind of, I guess, get over that hump of that youthfulness yet. There's the transition from what last year's team is to what they're building with the young kids that they have on their squad. So still, I think, a constant learning experience every single time they take the court.
And these 4 top teams probably will be 1, 2, 3, and 4 in their bracket.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to be a Merriwood Conference South Division tournament in a sense if they're able to hold serve early with the home wins. And then all of a sudden, those 4 teams will be matched up, and that win for Edgar puts them in a position to be a 3 and maybe avoid Marathon for at least one more game. And obviously, playing Auburndale is also difficult, but 6-10 is 6-10. I mean, and we're going to find out. He'll be sitting next to us a little bit later on, but that's something you probably want to avoid unless you have one of your own.
Well, right. It's a difficult matchup. The thing that gets interesting about those playoffs is we've talked about it where one of these teams in the top of the Merriwood has had the commanding lead. They've won both the home and away game during the season, and had the conference sweep. And then you come out like last year. And then you come out and Auburndale goes and takes, there's those moments where these teams are going to rise to the occasion because what's at stake and seniors and kids just making plays, and as well as kids making mistakes. There's pressure there. So I think it's going to maybe hold true to what the seeding is going to be spit out by the computer, but as well as it's going to be sometimes unfair that those 4 teams have to beat on each other again, and they don't get to see each other. It'd be nicer for them to see each other in the sectionals versus right away in those quick couple playoff games.
Merriwood North, Rib Lake 7-3 in the conference, 14-4 overall, leading the way, having a very good season. Our Rib Lake, Prentice 6-5 in second place, 10-6. Phillips third at 5-6 in the conference, 8-8 overall. Athens 3-8 in the conference, 6-10. Then Abbotsford 2-9, Shawamigan 1-9. But Rib Lake just continues to be very impressive. Even their losses have not been bad losses. They've lost to, I know, Marathon and Auburndale, and somewhere else they lost one. And they beat Abbotsford last night 72-53. Also in the Merriwood North last night, Phillips beat Athens 65-52. Prentice over Shawamigan 71-61. But Rib Lake being very impressive, and I know there's been changes for Athens, but just a little bit down this season.
Yeah. Give Rib Lake credit. They were one of the teams that, whenever you've talked to the coaches in the South, one of the teams that they're not always crazy. They know it's going to be a good, tight basketball game. It's going to be harder in their gym, as everybody's aware of. What you've ever played in there, or coached in there, or watched the game in there, it's a different place to play. So, for Rib Lake, I think to be competitive and to be on the radar of the teams in the South, I think it is a big deal. And they're obviously owning their side of the conference when they play anybody in the North, but, able to probably squeak and steal a couple from the South, which is going to make a big deal going forward in their playoffs, as well as what they're able to obtain as if they can hold on to it and it stays as it is with a conference championship. For Athens, I've watched them play twice now, and they play hard. But again, same thing as kind of like Newman had. There's a transition with kids graduating. They've lost kids that put in a lot of minutes to make those couple playoff runs they did the last 2 years, and now you're getting the younger talent back in there. So you're going to see sometimes where you don't pull the game out, or they don't finish it out the way they should because they're still growing in their experiences and how they play and learning a lot along the way, as all the young kids do when they take the varsity level.
CWC East, Bondwell having quite a year. 10-0 in the conference, 16-1 overall. Then Wyowega Fremont at 7-3, 9-9 overall. Whitburn and Shiocton, both 6-4 in the conference, both just over 500. Whitburn 9-7 overall, Shiocton 9-8. Then you have Manawa and Iola at 4-6 in the conference. Menominee Indian 2-8, Amherst 1-9. Wittenberg-Burnham won a couple of, actually 3 games in the past week, 2 in the conference. Whitburn beat Iola 56-46 Friday. Jet Rogowski 13, Casey Kielman 10 for the Chargers. Won a non-conference game against Pines, 57-34 Monday. And then last night, edged Menominee Indian. Would have been a rough one to lose with Menominee Indian down at 2-8 in the conference, 3-13 overall. But Whitburn found a way, winning 55-53. So, again, Bonduel just rolling. They beat Kewanee in a good non-conference win Friday, 101-75. And then they beat Wyowega Fremont. Wyowega had a chance to move to within one game of Bonduel in the conference last night, but Bonduel won 63-56. But for Whitburn, it's been that way. They've been kind of hanging around 500, and not losing that game last night. Boy, I mean, being 6-4 in the conference, much better than 5-5 with a bad loss.
Well, so yeah, especially if you drop one of the teams that are lower or down at the bottom on the conference on anything. So, the thing I want to mention is cool because I caught it on the news. I don't know if you saw it, where they honored one of their state-bound teams from I think it might have been 1953.
Wittenberg?
So yeah, it was back. It was back a ways. I might be off in the 50s.
Right.
But those are the moments. What I want to get at for our listeners is why we get out to games. Those cool things. They had some of the gentlemen that are still alive that played in those games and talked about them, and they got recognized. The gym was packed. It just makes for a neat atmosphere when those things can be made, brought back from the past, so to speak, and made a big deal of. So, but for Wittenberg, 3 solid wins in a row, and sometimes, you get to the point where when you coach or play enough games or kids are getting deep into the season, sometimes it might not be the prettiest, but you'll take it because it could easily be the other way, and you could be pulling your hair out looking for answers. So you can build some things off those 3 wins and keep looking and go forward to propel yourself into the playoff season.
And then CWC North, you have Tigerton and Marion 6-2. Tigerton 11-4, Marion 12-8, North and Lutheran 4-2, 5-9 overall. White Lake 4-3, 9-7, Boulder 0-5, and then Gresham 0-6. And Northland had a chance, but they fell to Marion last night, 69-60. It's interesting to see again. We've talked about this. Northland has played 14 games so far this season. You got Marion who's played 20. I mean, it's a shame in a sense because that does matter. I mean, not just in terms of opportunities for the kids from Northland, but in terms of if you play 20 games, you're going to learn a little bit more, aren't you?
Yeah, well, it's a big discrepancy. I mean, and I think this is just my opinion in my forward coaching. There comes a time and point where you want those games. You can keep getting what you got to get out of practice, but the guys get sick of wailing on each other. You add little wrinkles here and there, and once you're ready with that as a coach, you want to get to that next game in your schedule, and whether you want to get the game out before or get going on the next team, but at the same time, you don't want your season to end because especially if you're having success and having fun with it. So I think there is something to be said about when there's that discrepancy in the games. It's tough, and it's funny how things come full circle because I know I looked ahead at Northern Lutheran's going to Tigerton, and Tigerton I ran into at one of the games last year. Coach Hoffa, who used to be the coach at Pittsville, now he's over there, and now they're winning that conference. So kind of neat to see how things transition. But for Northern Lutheran, just getting the number of games. But we've talked small school population, kids are coming from a lot of different things where you might not be postponed up here if you're driving to your school district, which is right around. They're coming from 45 minutes, and it's just a different atmosphere for how that school's built.
That's a look at boys high school basketball. We'll look ahead later in the program, but coming up, we'll have our first guest for tonight, joined by the head coach of the Mosinee Indians, 14-3 on the season, currently in a tie for first place in the Great Northern Conference. We'll talk to Matt Lindsey coming up in 2 minutes. It's the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
For more than 60 years, Sun Printing has been Central Wisconsin's commercial printer of choice due to their commitment to quality, creative solutions, and dedicated service. Sun Printing's team offers you a wide spectrum of services, whether you need vehicle graphics, offset, digital, large format, graphic design, or mailing. They print everything under the sun. No project is too big or too small, so give Sun Printing a call at 845-4911 or visit them online at sunprinting.com.
If you're looking for your next ride, check out Mankey GMC in Schofield. Formerly Fred Miller Automotive, Mankey GMC serves Schofield, Wausau, Marshfield, and Stevens Point with a huge selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. Explore a range of top-notch SUVs like Acadia, Terrain, and Yukon, or choose from the rugged Sierra truck lineup, or even a certified pre-owned vehicle. No matter your dream vehicle awaits at Mankey GMC, 448 Grand Avenue in Schofield, and online at MankeyAuto.com. Mankey GMC in Schofield, where your journey begins.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible. Because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show. Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. BullFallsRadio.com. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes. And now very happy to welcome in our coach guest for this week, Matt Lindsey, the head coach of the Mosinee Indians. And on the boys' side, Coach, good to see you again.
Hey, great to see you guys. Thanks for having me in tonight.
Let's take the picture from 20,000 feet. 14 wins, 3 losses so far. 8-1 in the conference. Your season as a whole, going into it, when you started practice, when you started the first game of the season, has this team performed in the way that you expected it to, or has it been surprises from time to time?
You know, this team is very battle-tested. A lot of these guys have been with us playing since they were sophomores on the varsity level, especially our seniors. They've been here. They've been.
Don't worry about the guy in the other side of the class.
They've been practicing hard, working hard. They just got great cohesion. They love playing the game of basketball. They know what each other is going to do, so they find each other. Some of our assists this year have just been. It's shocking of how we find small little holes. And we just find that cutter, and we just pass that ball to them. It's really a lot of fun to watch those guys play together.
Well, again, we touched on the marathon game a little bit off air, but just watching your team play, I think Tomer did a good job but he wasn't like he was the scoring presence that he was, if I remember back to marathon a little bit. So you're just so deep, and these guys, like you said, make the extra pass, and I think that balanced attack, how big I would think it would be coming from the opposition of the coach that's going to scout you. It's like, okay, we might take away this, but then we got to watch this. But there's a lot to take away from your team for the other team to be successful and get the W.
Yeah, you know, this team is very deep. Like on any given night, any of our guys could be our leading scorer. And that's happened throughout this season where it's not always Landon Tomer or Keegan Jersley that's our leading scorer. You know, Garrett Shoup, Aiden Shaughnessy, Cole Kowalski, list goes on. These guys all step up and they excel in their role. They really know what their role is on the team, and they're willing to accept it. And you look at our box scores most nights, we got 5 or 6 guys in double digits, which is very hard to scout. What do you take away? Because if you take away this, then, you know, there's 6 more heads to that snake that are coming after you. So it's definitely a great, fun group to be around, to coach, and they want to get better every day. So it's really fun being in practice. It's very competitive. Our guys get after it each and every day, but that's how we structure it. We want them competing. The more often you're competing, you know, how we feel, the more often, you know, you want to win, and those tendencies come out in our play.
How, as a coach, when you have a group that's been through the through the wars, I guess you would call it, and have the experience. And when you come in at the start of the season and as the season continues, that these guys have been through it. How do you coach differently? Because you've been around the game for such a long time, and you've seen inexperienced teams, you've seen experienced teams, you've seen very talented teams and maybe less talented teams. How do you go about coaching this group? Because obviously it sounds like you have a lot to work with. You got a lot of kids that are capable. How does your job change with a group that has, this kind of experience and knows your system probably very well by this point? What are the buttons that you're able to push this year?
For us, a lot of it comes down to our preparation. So they see a lot more of the behind the scenes. So we're showing them clips multiple times a week. We're getting into film. We're showing them the tendencies that we see on the players that we're going to play. So they're seeing that. They're not just hearing it, they're seeing it. We're bringing in guys that, our other coaches that are younger. They're coming in and playing against these guys. Like they're battle tested in practice just as much as they are battle tested in games. And we bring in alumni quite often to go against our guys and just keep them, hungry and wanting to continue to go. So we do a lot of things that way. We spend a lot of time, in practice just working on different actions and what are our shooting and our opportunities out of those actions. Like tonight we did 4 different things just on decision making. So if this happens, what is your decision? So that way we're seeing them well before we ever see those decisions having to be made in games. So our guys are just that more prepared. It's not like they have to think. They can react because they're used to making those decisions every day in practice.
And looking at, the conference, I guess, as a whole, again, we always state when every coach is here, you're in the greatest conference in the world with the greatest team because, you got your rivals, and that's our conference is the best. You got to go that route. What do you, it's obviously a competitive conference. You've seen a lot of these teams enough over the years. What's your thoughts on the conference as it currently stands right now?
It's a lot of fun. Any place on the road is tough. That's probably the hardest piece about it. Rylander's got the nice little cozy little gym. So does Medford. And it makes it a fun atmosphere, but it makes it very competitive and tough. And every given night, it's just, what's going to happen? How do we handle adversity? How do we continue to mold and continue to play better against the competition? Because, we share all of our film throughout our conference. So we see every game that the other team is playing. So we pick up on those tendencies way more, and we know what they want to do. And so we game plan to take those things away, just like they game plan to take things away from us. And it's a fun chess match every night, playing in conference of, okay, this happens now. How do we respond? What do we do? How do we continue to make those things? And it's just, it's intriguing to see how that all works out and plays out on any given night. And anybody can beat anybody on any given night. So
what do you want to see out of your team because as a team, everybody's goal, we want to win state, we want to get there, whatever it is, win conference. Those are all goals. And you guys are sitting in a spot to obtain that. And you got the target on, you got the target on your back, and teams are going to come at you, and you're going to have to beat them away and own that. What do you think is going to be the biggest consistency you want to see from your team, so when we run into each other again, we could say congratulations because they got out of the conference what they wanted out of it?
Yeah, so for us, we're all about destinations. There's a lot of great things that take place along those destinations. So for us, it's always about a process. So every day we're building towards where we want to be in the end as a team. And each game is an opportunity for us to demonstrate that we are on the path that we need to be on with that process. So we continue to look, conference championship, we would love to win that. Another regional championship, we would love to win that. To make it and win the first regional game and to make it the furthest that Mosinee boys basketball has ever been, that's a destination for us along the way. And that's what we continue to work for day in and day out. That's why these guys compete as hard as they do every day, is because they have great, strives that they've made in order to continue to push along that process as we continue towards our goals. As we look at things, last night we had less than 10 turnovers. That's one of the things that we push with our guys. we always want to create turnovers. As we always say, our best offense is our defense. So we always want to play hard-nosed defense. We want to turn over the ball. We want to create opportunities for us to score easy baskets. Another, goal for us every night is we want a points per possession well over 1. Sometimes when you look at halves, the way things work out, if you hit a running clock, then sometimes, that doesn't always play out because we like to play fast. So that's one of those things that, we kind of look at. We look at number of possessions that we have in a game. We want to make sure there's 80 possessions going on in a game. Like those are things that we look for. So that's why we play the way that we play. And we always want assists. And the fact that our group right now is just so, unselfish with that basketball. It's just really a lot of fun. Even right now, Garrett Shoup is like another coach right now for us, being out with the broken hand, being in practice because he wants the best for these guys. Even though he can't be on that court right now, he wants the absolute best and is making sure that, people are filling his role within the team as well.
Again, we're talking to Matt Lindsey, head boys basketball coach at Mosinee High School here on Bull Falls Radio. Well, you came out 114-15. How has this team handled a couple of nights where you had to leave the gym short on the scoreboard? Because, as you said, it's a group it's been around. Obviously, an experienced group has certain advantages, and you said you were in practice today. How is the team feeling after a tough loss against Medford Friday, and then, of course, a tough one against Everest last night?
Yeah, our energy level was extremely high tonight, just like it was in practice on Sunday night, getting ready for Everest last night. That's the thing that we push for is we want high energy, we want accountability, and we have team standards that we hold each other to. So if a player's not living up, players let players know, players let coaches know, and coaches let players know. That's our philosophy. So if a coach isn't living up to our expectations as well, we expect our players to let us know that we're not living up to our expectations and our standards that we've set as a group. That's one of the first things we do at the beginning of the year. Once we've established who's on the teams, our varsity gets together and we establish our standards. What are we going to hold each other accountable for day in and day out? And that's what we show up with. So yeah, it was a tough loss, last night. But today we're back in the gym. We're working hard. We're bringing that energy. We're getting better. We're breaking things down. Every game is a learning opportunity, whether we win or lose. So we're breaking stuff down from last night's game, and we're finding ways to improve on the areas that we need to improve upon, as part of our process as we continue to move forward.
Let's talk about a few of your guys you touched on. Obviously, Keegan Jershely. We've talked to him on the program, and Landon Tomer has put up big numbers. Let's talk a little bit about Tomer because he's put up some numbers and reboundings that we're not used to seeing around here. I mean, some of those box scores have been so very interesting to watch. How does he fill up the stat sheet so incredibly well? What's the key to his success?
He moves very well. He sees the game extremely well. He's had some triple-double this year for at least one, if not, I think close to a 2 or 3. But yeah, he searches out for that ball. That shot goes up. He is not waiting around. He's willing to go get it. Has it got him in trouble a few times? It has, with some fouls here and there. But we want to be aggressive. We want that basketball because as soon as we get it, we want to push, we want to run. And Landon is really good at outletting a basketball as we're pushing and running. So some of his assists are, 60-foot passes up the floor to a guy that's streaking down there to, go get a layup in transition. But yeah, Landon sees the floor extremely well. Some of the passes that him and Treef Stoffel have thrown to each other this year for layups has been unreal, just that court vision that they have. So, we have a rule whenever that ball goes into the post, we run Laker cuts. So somebody's got to cut off the post. And just creating space, opening things up, moving the defense out of there a little bit. And a lot of times what happens is it catches a guy looking because they want to try to double that post player. And, Landon gets a lot of assists, off of that. Rebounding, he's all over the place. We're big on offensive rebounds, so we talk constantly about getting to that rim when that ball goes up. As we talk, nobody's perfect, so not every shot's going in. So we know that we need to get to that board and try to get an extra possession wherever we can steal an extra possession.
And talk a little bit about Keegan, because he's been involved in so many big athletic moments. I imagine having somebody that has that kind of experience generally is a big asset for your squad.
Yeah, 100%. Keegan as well, he's our floor general. He knows when to push. He knows when to slow down. We have constant conversations about that, of, looking back at film, was this a time that we should have slowed down? Is this a time we should have sped up? So we have those conversations with our guys. When you have somebody that's that experienced, you get to have a few more conversations. And it just so happens to work out that he's got a study hall right at the same time I have a prep period. So we can have a few more of those conversations throughout the day. So it's not just all after school. But it really helps the fact that, he sees the floor, he pushes it, he can take care of that basketball. His assist to turnover ratio is always unreal, and it has been the entire time he's been with us for the last 3 years. He just takes care of that ball. He knows when to attack. He knows he's getting better at playing off of 2 feet. Because we do some SWOT analysis on our players. What are our strengths? What are our weaknesses? What are our opportunities? And what's the threat to our game? And that was one of the things that we've talked to him about, is guys want to take charges against you. So you have to be able to attack, but play off of 2 feet, stop short of them so you're not always getting all the way into them. And that's saved him a lot of foul trouble throughout this year. And it's just been a lot of fun to watch. That anticipation that he has, you were asking me, you're talking a little bit in the break about, the marathon game and some of those steals at the end, and just knowing where to go. Like one was literally, he tipped it to Landon pushed it right back to him, and he goes down and scores, at a pivotal moment in that game where we needed a bucket. And it's just things like that he constantly is able to do, whether he's getting the points or he's getting them for a teammate. He's a competitor, and that competitiveness, is really tough to teach. But he just goes after things like there's no tomorrow, because for him it isn't. Tonight's what it's about, and he focuses on that next play. It doesn't matter if something bad happened; it's always that next play mentality.
And obviously you've talked deep into the player analytics, the coach analytics, all the stuff you guys are looking at throughout the week to put your team in the best spot and continued improvement and keep getting the success you're getting. From here on out, coaches take one game at a time, then we're trying to get the conference, and we're figuring out what playoffs is. For the rest of the season, one big thing you want to see your team work on, that, because you've talked a lot about the things you really love about them. Anything that's creeping in the back of your mind, hey, I want to see this a little bit better, guys?
Yeah, it's what we've been talking about. Last couple of games, we thought our defensive intensity in that half court kind of wavered a little bit. So we're getting back to our basics on that right now, and we're looking for them to get back to that, as well as our run and jump, making sure our rotations are solid and fundamental on that as well. And those are the 2 words that we've been using with them all year, is solid and fundamental. So knowing what our rotations are, seeing those rotations, don't second guess it, get there on them, which comes back to that decision making. So we do a lot of offensive and defensive decision making throughout our practices, getting them used to making them so they can just react. And we thought we got a little away from them, so we're just getting back to basics right now and really emphasizing that with our guys and trying to force, those ideas back into the memory banks.
It's always an interesting bracket, because you got your conference foes, you got a couple teams from the Valley. For this area, it's kind of a very interesting bracket. How do you, again, I know you're in the midst of everything else, but how do you sense it? I mean, it looks like it's a pretty good bracket again. It's never easy, obviously, but you see East playing very well. I think Merrill plays a good schedule being in the Valley, and of course you got your conference foes. It looks like you're talking about that goal of trying to go further. Obviously, you got the opportunity, and I think you probably have some of the building blocks. But boy, it's not going to be easy, is it?
No, and those teams that you're talking about, we wouldn't see until the sectional finals. The WIA actually switched it up. If you take a look at the teams and you draw a line along Highway 29, they went north-south this year in our sectional.
I should be looking at this stuff earlier.
So we we span from Fox Valley Lutheran all the way to Onalaska, La Crosse Central, La Crosse Logan, West Salem, Toma, There's Shawano in there. There's New London with us. So, yeah, the 2 teams that came out of our sectional last year as regional champs are moving. We're south of that 29,
Really?
so we're moving over. And
how do you feel about that?
you gotta play who's put in front of you. It would have been nice to have known that a little further ahead to try to schedule some of the teams from that side a little bit more. The only team that really were in our sectional that we've played is New London, and that was early in the season. And things change from the beginning of the season till now, and teams get better. And so we just got to continue to fight and battle and just continue to get better, because we know the battle is going to be there. There's a lot of great competition in that sectional for us to work through.
And I got go with scheduling. I know some coaches they'll go a little hands off in scheduling the AD. It'll be repetitive. We need these teams this year. How much hands on do you like to have in your scheduling?
100%. Yeah. We talk a lot about that. I work with my AD very closely on getting scheduling. We're working on next year's schedule already, and we're trying to find some teams, that are on that other side. We've asked every one of them if they're available to come over to our Thanksgiving tournament next year, which is, with Lakeland is coming back to our Thanksgiving tournament, and then New London will be there as well. So we're trying to pick up our 4th team for that right now. So we're trying to get a team from that side of the sectional to come in, and then anywhere we can get them, throughout. Same thing that, Coach Brown at Medford, they always were, which side are they going to, because it was east-west versus north-south. So he scheduled both sides of it, and that's where we're trying to get to right now as well, scheduling the best competition that we can schedule to help us be the most successful that we can be in the postseason, which is, you look at that schedule coming up, we got Xavier and we got Brilliant coming up, 2 powerhouses in D3, and that's to help us be battle-tested and ready to go for that postseason.
And lastly, I like to ask coaches, because I was never part of the computer system. Do you like it? Do you feel it's good? Would you rather go back to where people are sitting in a room duking it out, or never want to see it? I don't know. What's your feelings in general?
For me as a head coach, I was never in a room duking it out, because the first year I came in, that's, was the first year of electronic seating.
Gotcha.
But, in the past, Andy Bruss, when he was the head coach and I was his assistant, he would talk about how people would try to hold a marathon game over our head because they're a lower division. And, it didn't matter if you won or lost to them. They were a lower division. And this takes that out of that. It's just good basketball. And I'm going to keep Marathon on my schedule as long as they're willing to keep me on my schedule, because it's a great game. I love playing against those guys. I got great respect for their coaches and their team. And I know it's going to be a dogfight every year, and that's exactly what I want to be in for our guys to be ready for that postseason.
And it's also going to be an energetic crowd, which is
100%.
It's a fun way to spend either a Tuesday or Monday, whatever it may be, during the course of the season. Anything else before we?
No, I wish you good luck in those games coming up. You got a couple conference games yet this week, or coming up at the end of this week, and go from there and look for. You guys have a ton of success as the rest of the season rolls around.
Thank you.
Matt Lindsey, head boys basketball coach of Mosinee. We'll take a break, come back with more here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
New boys and girls basketball coaches polls are out with some changes at the top. I'm Travis Wilson, and this is a WisSports.net Minute brought to you by NFHSNetwork.com. More high school sports news after this.
Do you ever wish you could be in 2 places at once? With homework, carpool, practice, and everything else, sometimes you just can't make it to every game. But the NFHS Network's streaming platform makes that a little easier. For just $11.99 a month, you can watch unlimited high school sports live and on demand, at home or on the go. You can watch online or on one of our mobile or connected TV apps. Visit NFHSNetwork.com and subscribe today to never miss another game.
There continue to be some shakeups in the rankings for boys and girls hoops, and this week that involves some changes at the top. In girls basketball, Waupun has been the number 1 team in Division III much of the year, but the Warriors dropped a 57-52 decision to Kettle Lutheran last Friday, as Chargers junior Mackenzie Loring had 36 points in the game. Waupun slips a spot to second this week, while KML stays at number 5. Another top-ranked girls team in the area also went down, with Laconia falling to Edgewood in a 50-49 non-conference decision. But the Spartans managed to remain in the number 1 position in the Division IV coaches poll. 7 girls teams remain undefeated heading into the final few weeks of the regular season, and one of those will get a stiff test Thursday night. Oregon, who is 17-0 and up to third in Division I, will travel to D4 fourth-ranked McFarland for a non-conference Badger crossover. The Solon Springs boys basketball team had been ranked first in Division V for several weeks, but the Eagles suffered their second loss of the year over the weekend, falling to Cherry, Minnesota at the border battle. The result is a new top team in D5 this week, with Columbus Catholic moving up one spot. Solon Springs drops to third. There are 5 undefeated teams left in boys basketball: Wisconsin Lutheran, Kiel, Mineral Point, Kohler, and Cashton. This has been a WisSports.net Minute. Check us out online at WisSports.net and search Apple for the WSN podcast.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230, bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO and on the Civic Media app. With Jeff Gress, I'm Chad Holmes, and coming up in a little bit, we'll have our student-athlete guest, Grant Warren from Marathon. But let's talk about the girls, what's going on in girls high school basketball. And for the first time this season, we can talk about only one undefeated in the Wisconsin Valley Conference. Stevens Point, 8-0 in the conference, 13-6 overall. Marshfield, 8-1 in the conference, 12-7 overall. You got Rapids and West, both 4-4 in the conference, 6-13 overall, and 6-11 for the Warriors. You got Merrill, 2-5 in the conference, 9-8 overall. Wausau East 2-6, 6-12, and Everest 0-8, 3-16. Looking at the action in the Valley, last Friday, Stevens Point beat Wausau West 65-50. Really good-looking freshman Jada Seibert has 20 points. Abby Josie 14 for Stevens Point. Ayla Christensen 19. Paige Anderson 16 for the Warriors. Also last Friday, Marshfield beat Everest 70-20. And on Saturday, Merrill snapped a losing streak in a non-conference game, beating Adams Friendship 48-38. Another really good freshman, Grace Ryman, had 19 points in that game for Merrill. And then Monday, the game so far of the season in the WVC, Stevens Point edged Marshfield 62-61. Ellie Strong 17. Jada Seibert had 15 for Spash. Emma Ridgway 21 for Marshfield. And last night in the conference, Merrill beat Rapids 57-56. Everest got a third win of the season, non-conference, beating Iola 61-41. But, Jeff, as I said, Spash undefeated. 1-point win over Marshfield. Obviously, Tigers will get a chance on their home court yet. But both the boys and the girls, that was a doubleheader over in Stevens Point, lived up to the hype, didn't they?
Definitely. And for Spash and a lot of these teams we talk about, it's about getting your, you want the target on your back and you go out there and you get control of it. And so now that's where Spash sits. They've for the girls, they've struggled a little bit early in the season, but it was not a bad struggle because they were playing some tough non-conference games. So for seeing them to go out, own it, get that undefeated record in a tight one, it can't be better for a coach and a program and the players, because at the end of the day, that's what you want, is to go out and hold your own against these conference foes. For Marshfield, they still get they get another shot at them. Got a couple other games I think they can get in between, so they're going to be hanging around down there. And for us as fans and spectators, we hope it comes down to that last game that they're going to match up and see each other. Always is kind of the surprising team hanging in there is Rapids. You look at their overall win; they only have 6 overall wins, but they're hanging in there at 4-4.
That was a bad loss last night. Yeah. I shouldn't say a bad loss, but a tough loss. A 1-point loss.
But they're still
Merrill.
sitting in the middle of the pack at that conference at 4-4, even though they took the one to Merrill that knocks them down. So they're still sitting in a good spot. Kind of surprising to us because we don't see them that much. For West, they Spash beat them. They've had a tough one. They lost to Spash. I listened to part of the Lakeland game that you did. Tough game there. Lakeland's not going to be an easy foe. And for one, they're going to want to go out and own is DC Everest on Tuesday. So some games coming up for them that they hopefully can knock out. Merrill's still kind of we get from Coach DeBoer early in the season where his team stands and kind of. They get the one at Adams Friendship.
I saw it real fast.
Rapids. Go ahead.
I saw the game on Saturday because that was a doubleheader at Merrill, and Newman played the second game, and it was a struggle. I tell you, they came in and lost, I think, 4 in a row, but they found a way in the end. Again, the freshman Ryman played very well. And then last night to get that win against Rapids, vitally important for Merrill. And also a quick note on Jada Seibert for the Stevens Point Panthers. She's a freshman. I know she's already getting some looks from colleges. I mean, she's that good. I mean, she is a smooth performer, and she's going to really help Stevens Point here, not just this year, but for a number of years as well.
Well, that's when you bring up Seibert's name. That's for any freshman that starts on varsity. That's a big transition from 8th grade basketball. That bigger, faster, stronger mentality really gets thrown at them right away. But that's what I was kind of jumping back into Merrill is a couple key wins here will hopefully go a long way for how they want to finish off their season in the Valley Conference and as they roll in the playoffs.
Great Northern Conference, Lakeland 8-0, 16-2 overall. Rhinelander 7-1, 14-5. Mosinee 4-3, 12-6. Medford 4-4, 9-11. Pines 3-5, 7-11. Antigo 2-7, 4-14. Tomahawk 0-8, 5-12. Lakeland, I saw that, like you said, they played West. They came out 22-0. I mean, just really, really impressive. Christina Womet's everything that we've talked about this season. 37 points in that game. She hit her first 7 3-pointers, and many of those were NBA range. I mean, she gets her shot because obviously with the height advantage. She was really, really impressive. She had 29 against Antigo in a win. Again, just the consistency. But talking to Coach Womet of Lakeland, she says the team right now that she thinks of as the second best team is Medford. Medford got off to a very slow start. They're now 4-4, fourth place, 9-11, but they went to Mosinee and won Friday, 60-40. The first time around, they lost by more than 30 points on their home court. So, and Coach Womet said the second time that they played, they were just a much better team. In fact, she thinks that they're right now the second best team in that conference. And Mosinee had losses both Friday and Saturday. Lost 60-40 to Medford, 68-48 to Neilsville Saturday. But a good bounce back on the road last night, 67-40. I think Mosinee really needed that one because they've been playing pretty well, and then had a few bumps in the road as well.
Yeah, I agree. Start with Lakeland. They're going to own that conference. They're going to be the top dogs at the end of the day. Hearing things on the radio, news, things like that about their lineup, they're just tall. So they have a big lineup and a lot of places they can put the basketball and finish the game. So it's Womet, but there's more to that supporting cast with that group of seniors that they have. Rhinelander hanging around at the top, relying on some of those younger players to get the minutes and get the points, I think is a big deal. They're 7-1. The Rhinelander Medford game for me, that'll come. I know we'll get into games sooner or later coming up for Monday, but that'll be a test to see if Medford is what Coach Womet is saying they are. And for them, you got to give them credit. When you struggle, the make of how much you're improving is how well you do when you see these teams a second time if you didn't accomplish what you want to do the first round when you played them in your conference schedule. So quite a turnaround in terms of the scores and how they're playing. And this is when you want your team to start doing what they need to do in order to finish the season out strong to get the best playoff seed they can, as well as to be in the role that they want to be in to strategy-wise, health-wise, all that stuff at the end of the season. And for Mosinee, I agree with you. Amherst, you don't, coaches don't like to roll and say this is a must-win, but that is. If you haven't been playing your best ball, you're struggling in the score department. There may be more things that we aren't seeing, but on paper, you got to go out and get that next game because I think it means a lot to how players and programs and coaches are feeling about their play at that moment.
Merriwood South, Assumption has stretched it out. 12-0 in the conference, 17-0 overall. Auburndale 8-4, 12-7 overall. Stratford 7-5, 10-10 overall. Edgar 6-6, 9-9. Newman 3-9 in the conference, 4-14 overall. Marathon 2-10 in the conference, 5-14. Assumption and Auburndale played twice last week. Early in the week in Auburndale was a blowout for Assumption, but then at Rapids, a much tighter game last Thursday. Assumption beat Auburndale 43-37. Jordan Jaglinski, 17 points for the Royals. Hope Schulte, 14 for Auburndale. Also Thursday in the conference, Newman beat Marathon 37-32. Evie Bates, 11 for the Cards. Emma Love, 12 for the Raiders. And Stratford beat Edgar 53-33. Carly Pankratz had 15 for Stratford. Taylor Lemmer, 14 for Edgar. And that was basically the conference activity. Monday, Auburndale got a non-conference win, 51-43 over Pittsville. Edgar edged Rosholt, 54-51. And then last night, Marathon fell at Pacelli, 61-37. And Bondwell, we've talked about them in the CWC East. They beat Stratford 42-32. But it looks like everything is done but the screaming here for Assumption to win that conference championship.
Yeah, and every time you talk to a coach who's played Assumption or prepping for Assumptions, it's you got to get around their traps. Their press defense is heavy. They get you to turn the ball over a lot. Their points come out of transition, as well as when they get in the half-court set, they've got some kids that can shoot the ball from the outside. So, you've seen some of the best teams try. Phillips up in the north is a very good team on the girls' side. Came close, but couldn't finish it off. So even when they maybe stubbed their toe a little bit within an individual game, like where the Auburndale score is a little closer the second time around, they still managed to prevail because they just have that mentality that those games are theirs. So Assumption, I think, owning the top. The other teams kind of, it's starting to play out. You can see in the records, and teams are taking to what they are. So it's still, for any program, just about trying to get better as much as you can to roll in the playoffs.
Well, better be getting better now because time is running out.
That's what I'm saying. But you want to roll in with as much momentum as you can, and so coaches are going to continue to break things down. Players that really want are going to continue to work and put their teams in the best spot they can to finish out the season.
Marywood North Phillips, as we expected, I think, following this season, have finally moved into first place by themselves, 11-1, 18-2 overall. Athens 10-2, 12-7. Abbotsford 5-6 in the conference. Rib Lake 4-7. Prentice 3-9. Shawamigan 0-12. Big one last Thursday. Phillips in the battle for first won at Athens, 63-47. Casey Egerbrecht 20. Matea Eckert 17 for the Loggers. Sophia Coker 17 for Athens. And again, Phillips, that's a team that's very interesting. They challenged Assumption probably as well as anybody. And when you do get to the postseason, where Assumption being in D5 and Phillips being in D5, it'd be interesting if they do meet again.
Yeah, I mean, I've only seen Phillips play one time when they played over in Newman, but the pace that those girls went up and down the floor at I thought it was impressive. They didn't get tired. The ball wasn't dribbled a lot. It was moving with the pass, and they were finishing. And then if you did beat them back, they had enough weapons to move the ball again and throw the shot from behind the arc on you. So I just that'll be a war when they meet at the right time. If Assumption and Phillips get to see each other again in the playoffs.
And finally, quickly to wrap things up, CWC East girls. Bondwell 10-0, 18-2 overall. Whitburn 8-2, 17-2 overall. You weren't here last week. Talked about that second meeting between Bondwell and Wittenberg-Burnhamwood. Whitburn actually had a double-digit lead at halftime over in Bondwell. I mean, they came out, they were ready, but then Bondwell, showing why they're so good, came back to win. But Whitburn bounced back nicely. They're busy right now. They played 4 games in the past week, beating Wyowega-Fremont 67-36, beating Iola 62-25, beating Pines 72-34, beating Crandon last night 52-25, and consistency for Rory Salveson 26-26, 21-21. Again, frankly, the loss at Bondwell was probably, in a way, as impressive in terms of their capabilities when the playoffs get underway, because they had not been challenged in the same way. They lost by a fairly significant amount the first time around. They showed that they could play it, at least for a half, with a very good Bondwell team. So I think Whitburn is still a team that has the potential to make something happen as we get towards the postseason. Oh, yeah.
I think that's what you're going to look to finish out strong. Obviously, conference is out of hand unless something major happens with Bondwell, which it's not going to. And Wittenberg, only 2 losses, both to the same team. They showed that they can jump out and take a lead. As a coach and players and your program, you analyze why that lead didn't stay, and you work to fix those things, because eventually you're going to see a team like that somewhere down the stretch. If, when you want to make it farther in those playoffs and try to get them down and make that state run, you're going to run into that team that you might hold the lead on, then they come back on you, and hopefully you'll learn from the loss against Bondwell on how to make that better and be better adjusted and better ready for it, so that when your kids do get that battle again, they rise to the occasion and pull that one out. But they're having a 17-2. They're having a great season, and I think you're going to see a lot more. Or the couple games they have left in the regular season, you're going to see a lot more wins with them yet.
We're going to take a timeout and then come back with our second guest of the evening from Marathon High School, their outstanding senior, Grant Warren. That's coming up in 2 minutes. This is the Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Wisconsin. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the WIAA and the Wisconsin Athletic Directors Association.
Take your career to the next level with Graphic Packaging International. Work with a team to make Hot Pocket sleeves and the food trays you find at our local fair. Join the GPI team and experience the benefits of one of the highest paying manufacturers in the area, starting at almost $22.55 per hour. Enjoy job security, a clean facility, and an excellent benefits package, including a week of vacation after 4 months and 2 weeks after a year. Apply today at graphicpkg.com and elevate your career with Graphic Packaging.
What's your idea of winter fun? If it's hitting the trails after a fresh snowfall and you're thinking new snowmobile, it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union, the leader in financing fun. If you're thinking new four-wheel drive vehicle to get you to the downhill slopes or the cross-country trails, it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union, the leader in financing fun. Quick, easy loan applications, friendly lenders, and great rates make CCU the lending leader in financing fun. If your idea of winter fun isn't in the snow, maybe hitting the highway in a new motorhome is the way to go. Just give CCU a call. Financing for motorhomes and winter getaways. When you think fun, think Clover Belt Credit Union. What are you waiting for? Life's too short and winter's too long. Call CCU for your great rate financing. Dial 715-842-5693 or apply online or from your smartphone. That's Clover Belt Credit Union. Local lenders lending local money, keeping our community strong.
And welcome back, Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Online at bullfallsradio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO. And very happy to welcome back our student-athlete guest for this week, Grant Warren, senior from Marathon High School, multi-sport athlete, but right now in the midst of a very impressive basketball season. Grant, thanks for coming back.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Hey, let's talk a little bit about the season up to this point. Obviously, it's been a really good go of it so far for your team. You've had, I think, a pretty good schedule to be able to challenge yourself, be able to go down to the Wisconsin Basketball Yearbook Tournament, have a couple of very competitive games, be able to roll through your conference so far. How's the season been? I mean, obviously coming in, there were high expectations, but it looks as though your team has been very consistent, and I guess from your perspective and your teammates, how's the season gone so far?
I think it's gone pretty well so far. I think my team would sort of agree with that. One of the things that Coach Jacobson preaches is taking it game by game and not having and trying to be consistent all the way through, not thinking, we're going to play this team, we're going to blow them out. You got to play every game the same. And, we played great teams down in Kettle Moraine, with Kettle Moraine Lutheran and Prairie School down in Concordia. Guys treat those the same as, a non-conference team that we might play. And just that consistency throughout the year has really helped us to be successful.
And how much fun is this? You guys are, you're around your buddy. I even see. I go stand in my corner at the Newman gym all the time because that's where I like to watch the game because I feel I can see things better. Plus, nobody's standing in front of me because I'm only 5'8", so I can see much easier over in the corner there. But when I'm watching the game, I just, it looks like out on the court, we're serious, we're disciplined, we're having fun. We know when we can high-five each other, give that smile, but then we know when it's down to business. I'm watching guys, cheer all the way down on the end of the bench for those guys. Sometimes I think that closeness and that's a big deal. And it's also a big deal when you graduate and you're done. So how much fun are you having, and what's so great about, being part of this team right now?
Well, I think the group of guys we have we really clicked. We were friends before the season, obviously, but obviously winning's fun. I don't think anyone's going to argue that, but I think the process is also fun. Trying to get better every day with the group of guys that we have. Our scout team pushing the starters in practice every day. That's fun just going at it like that. And, everybody's making everybody better. I think just that process throughout the year makes everything really enjoyable.
I think that's underestimated, that practice where you have guys that are able to give either good looks or just make you work. Because even last night, as you got to the end of the game against Newman, they call it clearing the bench. But the guys that came out there, sometimes things kind of fall apart when you watch a game where it's out of hand and there's a lot of turnovers. Your guys, again, play fundamentally sound basketball. And that seems to be a Marathon tradition. It really does start with fundamentals with your program, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, through the summer, we're always doing drills, everybody, to get better. And then into the season, Coach Jacobson expects the same things out of both groups, scout team and the starters, and the scout team's supposed to scout,
right. Give you a look.
Prepare us for who we're about to play, but they're also going against us. Coach Jacobson doesn't expect us to beat them up per se, right. But he expects them to compete, and they absolutely have. And you see it when they get into games. They're scoring, they're making the right passes, they're defending, and that just shows what they've done in practice.
And how about one of the again, this is just my opinion, so you can take it or leave it. I think the beauty of your team is things can go to certain players, but it doesn't always have to go through that way. It's your guys are dangerous because that extra pass will come, and people are looking. I mean, even as close as you are with your height to the basket, sometimes I see you go and you're looking, okay, where is this guy? Okay, I could get it here, but I got one more, and we're getting even that closer and that tighter. I think that's another just a strength of not only Marathon basketball, but of your team, yourself as the unselfish play. I think is a big deal of what I watched, and guys relishing in each other's successes along the way. I thought that was, you could see that definitely came out on the court as you guys played yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, with me, Cooper, and Tyler, the three senior starter, we've played since 5th grade together, and so we kind of, I'd say not necessarily in middle school, but through high school, we've learned, we know what we're doing. I know what Tyler's going to do if I get the ball. I know what Cooper's going to do if I get the ball. And I think just that chemistry between us, and then you throw in the two sophomores, and just being able to play off of each other. And that's something we're trying to work on every day is, all right, my shot might not be there, but my teammates probably is. And then also, we've had problems with too many passes, right? Maybe my shot's there, but maybe he has a better one. But maybe my shot is actually better. So, it's just finding that fine line in between, all right, should I take my shot? Should I get my teammate a better shot? And just finding that. I think we've gotten better at that throughout the year.
Again, we're talking to Grant Warren, senior from Marathon High School, here on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 to 1230.
And I had one more quick before I take too much time from Chad here.
No problem.
The consistency of your coaching staff. I mean, I remember when Coach Jacobson was, doing the lower levels, and then he got the head job, and that the staff members that have been on that team and the experience, and then when you pick up, Coach Warfel, who used to be a varsity coach, so you know what I mean? You have a lot of guys that have been around the block on basketball. You can't always get that in the gym. Sometimes I know coaches are looking to get fill that staff and get anybody, and just get somebody there so we have somebody that's committed to the kids, and you guys have had that a lot. I think that's special, and it helps. How big a deal has that been?
It's been really big. I think so. We have this thing it's on the weekends in January called Little Red Raiders, and we got our thing on Friday where they all come out at halftime and do their dribbling thing. But When I was in that, I think one of the first years I was in that was the first year Jacobson took over for Reike.
Yep.
So our group has really seen him the entire way. Obviously, we remember Reike from his years in the state championship, but we've seen Coach Jacobson. Claude Seibert's been around for how long? Phil Seibert, former player, and Claude was, and now we got Hunter Seibert.
Yeah.
So we have 3 former Seibert players coaching us now, and then Alex Bloom. Jacobson always says he's been either a player or coach since like 2013, something around there. And obviously, Coach Wolf, I'm going to call him Chuck, but he's a personality.
Yeah.
I'll put it that way. He can be extremely strict in practice. He wants you to do it right because he knows it's going to make you better. But he's also the funny guy at times. So just the combination between all the coaches just makes us a lot better and makes it just a great place to be.
I imagine that the teams that play you would be surprised you were ever a Little Raider. Let's talk about your game because, again, we've had a chance to see you over the last number of years. This year, how has your game changed maybe even this year compared to last year, and especially when you first started? Because obviously one of the things you want to do is always take those next steps. How has your game changed in any way this year?
Well, I think it started last year too, and we've worked on it between me and the coaches. If I get a little more attention, that stems to my teammates too. I think it's a lot to do with my passing ability, and my teammates have worked on that too. If more attention comes to me, they know that what play they need to make and to be open, and just that regard. And everyone as a whole moving the ball, depending on, okay, if my teammate shot isn't there, what do I have to do so that my shot's open? Just working on that stuff.
And I mentioned during the broadcast last night that people probably know that you lead the team in scoring and rebounding, but you going into last night, you were the leading assist man as well. But that was very tight. I think there were about 3 or 4 of your guys within like 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. So it just shows again how all of you guys are sharing the basketball exceptionally well. I had a question now after I mentioned that. The thing I want to mention, one thing again about your game, and I think I may have mentioned this to you before as well, is as a big guy, you're going to be fouled. You're going to go to the free throw line. And the way that you've been able to develop a really nice touch from the line and be able to, even during, normal play in the half court, be able to have the touch where you don't have to be 2 feet from the basket and use your height advantage in that way. Could you talk a little bit about the process of developing your shot? Because, again, when you're a bit taller, that can be a little bit more difficult. How have you gone about developing such a nice touch at the line, showing a nice touch in the mid-range jumpers as well? Could you talk about maybe that process?
Well, I think I said this same thing last year, but you asked my middle school coaches, I did not have a good shot. But I think freshman year with Coach Claude Seibert, they just said, shoot it. Don't worry about how it looks. And I think just through my years in high school, it's looked better, I'd say, but also been more consistent.
Mm-hmm.
My brother, he was in middle school and through, I think, his first couple of years of high school, he was always in the Elks free throw contest.
Right.
And I think he was second place at the state tournament once. So that might be where the free throws come from. My dad was always pushing him to be a good free throw shooter, and now that's kind of on me. But I think just overall being confident in what I'm doing has helped my shot.
And, just looking at your game, obviously you got college done with, where you're going and
let him share for the listeners.
Okay. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's
Say where you're going. Tell where you're going and what college.
Michigan Tech.
Yeah. Huskies.
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Well, no,
Continue.
that's fine. I was going to say it, or I was going to ask him to share it off the start. But anyways,
I should trust you by this point, right?
Yeah, maybe. We'll get back to that later. With your game and going to college, and even now, are there still things after all this time you've had to analyze? You played at the different levels. You guys are playing with a high amount of success, and things are going well. Players that analyze themselves and want to be better are going to constantly look for self-improvement. Is there still something in your game that you want to still work on throughout this season to get it as strong as you can to make that punch all the way down to state? And then the second part of that would be, what do you think from high school to college is going to be your next biggest transition then in terms of what you want to develop in your game?
Well, high school to college, I think number one thing is going to be strength. That's got to be a big thing that I'll be working on this summer and into my college career. But I think for this season and for the whole team, it's got to be able to trust your teammate. You make your pass to your teammate, you're believing he's going to make the play. Because if the trust isn't there, you might not make that pass, and then something else might happen. But being able to trust your teammate and the bonds that you build throughout the season, that builds that trust. You make that pass, your teammate's going to be able to make the play, and that just makes everybody better.
And I got to ask because my seventh grade son said you got it because he wanted to see you dunk more last night. So is it ever hard? Because I have no bearing on that. When I can get the net when I was younger, that's a good day for me. So is it ever hard to determine? Because, with the size you have and the position you play in, by the way, which is great to see too, because I think in a game where that game is really floated back out to the three-point line, the element of the big guy has been a lot different for a lot of teams, and to see that still established in a big spot in the game, I think is a cool thing. Is it ever hard to decide? I'm going to turn around and slam this one down. I could just go for the layup. I mean, are you constantly checking not to get under? I mean, does stuff go through your head whether you're going to get it the dunk or the layup, or is that just no thought? I'm just making the move and it's habit.
I'd say there's a little thought. Out of the corner of my eye, I see, okay, is he right there? Then I probably lay it in. If I don't see anybody, I might dunk it. But there's not a whole lot of thought that can go on in the middle of a game, I'd say. But as long as it goes in,
yeah, it's got to be a lot of fun putting it down.
Yeah.
Were you trying to dunk last night when you got fouled?
Maybe. I'm not even sure. I'm not even sure what happened.
I kind of, when I was calling it, I didn't know how to call it because it kind of looked like you wanted to dunk it, but then it also looked like you were going to, but you got fouled, so it obviously changed. Yeah. It was just odd because
I think my hand hit the rim.
Yes.
So maybe it counts, but no. Yeah.
Again, we're talking to Grant Warren from Marathon High School here on Bow Falls Radio. Looking ahead, we had Tyler and Cooper on both. You came solo, so obviously you got more. But they came on the week of their football playoff game against Auburndale, and mentioned about last year in the playoffs. Is that something that sort of hangs over you guys at all? What do you take away from the disappointment of last year as you get into the situation of having to go through that process again? One of the things about sports, whether it's say a team that loses in the Super Bowl, you have to start all over again. You can't start right where you were, close to the state tournament. How did that affect you? Because that obviously was a disappointment last year. So many of your guys were part of it. I guess, is that something that is in any way a chip on the shoulder, or is that something that everybody's got past?
I think it always is going to be a chip on the shoulder. I know it was for the guys in football, but it's always in the back of your mind that, okay, we were this close to being able to do something and we couldn't get there. Now, what do we have to do differently this year to maybe take that next step? So it's not a huge factor, like it's not weighing on us a ton, but it's always just a little thing in the back of your mind that you want to be able to get past, and just use it as motivation through this year.
Sure.
And obviously, being a student athlete, basketball is a long season, so you're putting a ton of time in. And then the greatest thing about it, I'm assuming you guys are working with the little kids at the marathons. You're giving back that way. And then I think one of the cool things that I don't know, you'd have to be at the tournament to see it. And I've been fortunate enough to coach in youth athletics long enough where I've seen it. Every time we go play a marathon, whether it's our in-season games or tournament games, they're helping train younger officials, which I think is a big deal because you can still go to games and see people that have been reffing a very long time, and eventually they're not going to be able to do it. So what's going to happen? And I thought that was neat to see because I think it gives such a different perspective of the game, and maybe in light more of an appreciation of it. And then when you can come out and be good at it, which I'm going to give Grant credit, he did a great job reffing our games. But Is that true? I mean, is that obviously you give back a little bit, might even get paid for it, who knows? But that training, is that you got to? How come what do you get out of reffing? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, I think my reffing career started my sophomore year. There's I'd say 4 main ones out of the Marathon area. You got Larry Buchberger, one of the best officials in the area. Andy Krautkramer is not reffing anymore, but he's now an officials instructor.
Yep. And
you got Tyler Hammond, who filled in for Larry last year, and then Randy Rasmussen, who's always been there. But those guys have kind of helped me train me. I mean, Larry's set me up. I'm reffing this weekend in the Optimist thing, but it's a different side of the ball to be able to see that. And then Tyler refs, Cooper, Truthers, Drew Woelfel, and their dads. Actually, you do get paid for it, and that's always an upside. But being able to see it from that side of the ball, what our officials in our games looking at when we make a play, and then you can see it from a different angle. Now, we're not doing it varsity, but you still see that stuff. So, I think it does help you in our games to think, okay, what is that official probably thinking? Because, it's an extremely difficult job if you ask any official. And now Jaden Keller is doing varsity games now. So if I'm watching film and I see a call that's questionable, I'll send it to him and see what he thinks. Because, he's always trying to get better. So I don't know if that type of officiating is in my future, but just knowing those guys and just the different side of the ball is a big factor, I think.
As you get ready to go to school up in Houghton, right? That's in Houghton. Obviously, it's a school that's well known for its academics as well. Do you have? I'm not asking you to declare a major or anything like that, but do you have any idea on a course of study that you're interested in?
Well, it's an engineering school, so some form of engineering. Not 100% sure yet. Either maybe biomedical or chemical, something in that regard. Biochemistry. It's very, very good academic school. One of their mottos, I think, is tomorrow needs tech, because engineers they shape the world, they shape tomorrow, and I think being able to have a practical effect on tomorrow's society is going to be a big factor, and I'm excited to go up there.
When you are away from your studies, when you're away from your basketball or your baseball, whatever you may be involved in, again, what are the things that you like to do to kind of get away from it, to enjoy, or if you are able to?
I mean, as a high school athlete, there's not a ton of downtime.
Right.
For the summers, it's extremely busy between Summer League and then Legion, which my dad is always honest about. But I think just taking time away, not necessarily doing anything, but anything specific, but just taking time away to reflect or just relax, think about what you've done and what you still have to do. It's just refreshing to be able to just take a step back.
When you graduate and high school's done, what do you've seen, you got a lot of sports experience. Mom does the athletic training, dad does the coaching, teaching. You've been around a lot of sports in a lot of different ways. What are you going to miss the most when your high school career is over?
I think it's going to be the community. One of the things that I think about is the Newman game last year. Win or lose, that was a ridiculous crowd. That's the most packed I've ever seen the gym. Everybody's standing.
It's the hottest
only.
gym I've been around.
There was no room.
I can't remember the last time it was standing room only.
Right.
Regardless of the game, the community from both sides was tremendous. And I think that's something that our school can always take pride in, is we're always going to have people out there to support us no matter what happens. We've got these old guys. We had our baseball fundraiser on Saturday, and you see people there that are in the stands that now they get to talk to you, maybe in person about the season. Just seeing them at the games, and out in the community is just big for the high school athletes to know they have a lot of support.
And looking to baseball, I'm assuming you're still going to be out there with your dad this spring, right? Mm-hmm. What's that going to be like? I mean, the final year of playing for your dad, I imagine, because last year was really cool. I mean, what a good run. You ran into a kid, I think, who went to Purdue, if I'm not mistaken, in the sectional final. So obviously it was a great season and a great run in the postseason. But I imagine that it's going to be a special spring as well.
Yeah, I think so. We're already having open gyms for I think some wrestlers go to it, or some guys that aren't in a winter sport. But my dad's always got his, we got to fix this. Or, what are we going to do in this position? He's got all that. But he's told me once, we're going to be young, but we're not going to be inexperienced. We're losing only 3 seniors. But we've got, and that means we got 6 guys that played in the sectional final coming back. So we're going to have experience. I think it's a lot of guys combining the wrestlers and the basketball players, and just a really fun group of guys to be around, and hopefully we can do something special again.
Anything else?
I'm good. You want to?
Yeah, maybe we'll get to the last question. I mean, you should know you've been here. Obviously, you've been through, a lot in terms of a number of years here not just playing varsity, but being high level. I mean, you've been in a lot of situations. You've seen it from so many different angles. And again, as if somebody that's coming through Marathon very early in their athletic career, based on everything you've learned, everything that you've seen, everything that you've experienced, what piece of advice are you able to give a younger teammate or a younger student that's just starting that process at Marathon? What would you want them to know that you've learned over the last 3-4 years?
Probably you always have to keep improving, and there's always room for improvement. If you look at me specifically, or anybody, from their freshman year to where we are now, it's drastic differences. I don't know if you remember, but I was always up in the press box watching the baseball games when I was in middle school or even younger, and those guys are mid-20s now. And it's I watched my brother when he was a freshman to when he was a senior, but it's always the improvement that you can make. Maybe as a freshman you're not on the varsity, but you always got to think, if I keep improving, good things are going to happen to me and to the teams that I'm on.
Grant Warren, anything else, Jeff, again?
No, best of luck in the conference games you got left, and into your playoff run, which will be here before we know it, and all the fun that's still yet to come.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you again for coming in.
Yeah, thanks.
Grant Warren from Marathon High School, our student-athlete guest this week. We're going to take a time out, come back with more Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
Winter sports are here. Align your young athletes and yourself with health by scheduling an appointment with Dr. Sarah at Shine Chiropractic in Rib Mountain. Stay in the game with our comprehensive 3-point neurological exam, safe for the entire family. Don't let the daily grind keep you and your student athletes on the sidelines this year. Call Dr. Sarah at 715-298-5104. That's 715-298-5104 in Rib Mountain today.
Hungry for flavor-packed fun?
Dive into Red Robin's sizzling burgers, mouth-watering fries, and endless options.
Or maybe you're craving the perfect slice.
Then it's Donato's Pizza, your passport to pizza perfection.
Order now and treat yourself to an unforgettable taste experience.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza, 225548 Rib Mountain Drive in Wausau.
Call 715-301-0019 or log on redrobin.com.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza.
Are you an enthusiastic sports fan? Want to have fun and get in on the action?
Heck, yes. That'd be awesome.
Have great attention to detail? Want to stay active?
Definitely.
Want to give back to the student athletes in your community?
Obviously, yes.
Then you'd make an excellent high school sports official. We need more officials in Wisconsin, because with no high school officials, there are no high school sports. Sign up today at highschoolofficials.com.
Parents of class of 2024 seniors, graduation is a few months away. Do you know where your photos are? Melissa Sullivan of Picks and Pieces Photo and Digital Organizing can help. Mel is a professionally trained photo manager who can convert printed photos and outdated media to digital formats, consolidate and organize your digital photo collection, and create custom photo books, gifts, and slideshows. Preserve, organize, and share your priceless family memories today. Call Mel at 715-446-0762 or visit picksandpieces.com today to learn more. Again, that's PIX, the letter N, pieces.com.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. BullFallsRadio.com, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Again, two terrific guests, Matt Lindsey, the Mosinee boys basketball coach, Grant Warren, Marathon High School senior. And again, boy, I was just saying to you, you can tell the young people that think, and he was thinking, and you love to see the thought that goes into the answers of our questions, and it's always best when the responses are better than the questions.
Well, yeah, definitely. Well, I think it's a big deal to come in and carry on the conversation. I think that's such a big thing when technology is so out there that you can stick your face in the screen all the time. When you can come in here and still have a true conversation, I think that's good. And what I love about the coaches and players, not only tonight, but that we have on all the time, the painting that gets put out there of their program, and you can see the heart and soul invested. You can see how much they care. You can see how they rise together with the highs and lows, and still the hopes to come, yet the successes and things they're having right now. I think that's the coolest thing of being part of this.
We are getting close to playoffs. In fact, the first brackets will be coming out this weekend because hockey will be having
I thought we were on the. I thought it was NFL.
No.
Just kidding.
Stop it.
I'm kidding.
Here
we go. Go to your hockey segment.
Whiz. Oh, you just completely blew the whole segment here. I don't know. I'm a walk out.
I did not.
No.
Go.
But we're going to have brackets coming out this weekend. And it's always fun. I always enjoy this time of year because you have 3 weekends in a row where you're spending time in front of the computer refreshing, waiting for brackets to come out. You got the first brackets to come out are the hockey brackets, both boys and girls. Their seeding meetings are this weekend. Then we'll find out. And the playoffs begin in less than 2 weeks, 2 weeks from yesterday. So, and then it's a very quick run until the state tournament. Then, of course, the girls' basketball brackets the following weekend, and then the boys as well. And hockey is heading down the stretch. And last week, Stevens Point clinched the Wisconsin Valley Conference Championship, but it was not a great week for the then number 1 ranked team in the state last Thursday in a game that we had right here on Bull Falls Radio. Panthers clinched the WVC, shutting out Wausau West 3-0. But then they lost their first 2 games of the season. On Saturday, they went to Hobbs and Eau Claire, lost to Eau Claire Memorial 5-1. Last night, made the trek down to Milwaukee, faced University School, and lost 4-2. So Stevens Point, after going undefeated until Saturday, lost back-to-back against really good opponents. So, I mean, Eau Claire Memorial, always very good. USM, always very good. Last week, while you were not here, we had Dan Van Slyke, the hockey coach at DC Everest, and they have played some really good hockey recently. I believe now it's 6 out of 7 they have won. They defeated Marshfield last Thursday 2-0. Griffin Bunnell, 22 saves. Thomas Passano and Ethan Whitmore had goals for DCE. And then the Evergreens beat Sun Prairie Friday in overtime, 5-4. Thomas Passano had a hat trick. He's a very impressive junior for DCE. So after a very tough December, DC Everest had a very, very good January. And looking forward to seeing Everest and West over at Greenheck next Tuesday night, a game that we'll have here on Bull Falls Radio. DC Everest will be tested as they try to keep their winning ways going tomorrow night. They travel to Stevens Point as Spash will try to get back on the winning track. Also tomorrow night in the Valley, the battle for the Coolman Cup. I bet you have no idea what the Coolman Cup is.
I think you'd explained it to me one time, but I forgot, so go for it.
Well, I'm not. It's named, every year at Wausau East and Wausau West in the second meeting. Play for the Coolman Cup. It's named after a supporter of Wausau area hockey. And it's been a battle for many, many years. West has won it for a long time. They've had such a good run. But tomorrow night at Marathon Park, EMU and Wausau West. And Rapids and Marshfield as well tomorrow night. Saturday, Stevens Point, another very good non-conference game, taking on Verona. Excuse me. And then, as I said, next Tuesday, Spash another. This is I want to ask you scheduling, because I've noticed Stevens Point, they have been, for a number of weeks, and they're going to do this right into the playoffs, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. And they've had some road trips, going to Eau Claire Saturday, going to Milwaukee last night on a Tuesday. Next week, Tuesday, they go to Brookfield in the middle of the week. They'd have another tough non-conference game Saturday against Verona. I got to say, I think in some ways, yeah, you want to be challenged, but at the same time, this constant, we have no time to breathe in a sense. I think you could be pushing it a little bit as well.
Yeah, I would say that was my biggest question because, you might be you're obviously trying to get the best talent out there to play against to get your team ready for the run you want to make. So they've seen every situation and been tested on all parts and in facets of hockey, of playing in the high school hockey. But I think at the same sense, you totter a fine line when there can be burnout and exhaustion on some of these late trips. I mean, it depends on how studious some of the kids are. It depends on what other things they might have going on. At some point, your body needs rest. You need to get a good balance between your work ethic and rest and eating and all that stuff to be successful. So, the one thing I wonder is the hockey playoff schedule when you start playing, does it become those nights where that's the break in between to try to get them in such a repetitive pattern where it's set off like a playoff run and they do it over and over again? So
the thing about it is they'll get a break between the last game of the regular season and the start of the playoffs because they will have a first round bye. So they will not play because the first round of the playoffs is 2 weeks from yesterday. Okay. And then they'll get a bye, and then they'll play on the Thursday. And I have to look at their schedule to see whether or not they play on Saturday or they wrap it up on Thursday because they could have a full week, and that would be time to take a step back and recharge as well. So, but again, it's been not just this week. Doggone it. I still have this cough that has just been hanging around. But again, it's been a number of weeks where they have been in this Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday grind. And again, we'll see. Maybe it's going to be the best thing. They know their team. They know what they want to accomplish. And it's obviously been a team that's been ranked number 1 for a number of weeks. They were number 2 this week. So again, that'll be interesting to watch. Great Northern Conference. And Great Northern Conference is a little different because they have a conference tournament, and they started their tournament last night in the first round. Mosinee beat Antigo 9-1. Mosinee improves to 14-7 on the season. Gavin Obremski had a hat trick. In fact, Obremski has back-to-back hat tricks. He is doing a job in building up the offensive numbers in the last week. He had a hat trick on Saturday as well in Mosinee's 9-3 win up in Eagle River against Northern Pines. But Mosinee advances to a GNC semifinal on Tuesday of next week against Tomahawk. Tomahawk beat Medford 11-2 in their quarterfinal last night. Also, Wapaka beat Northern Pines 7-1, and Lakeland over Rhinelander 5-1. So the GNC semifinals, Mosinee at Tomahawk next Tuesday, Wapaka at Lakeland. And an interesting thing about this Great Northern Conference tournament is that most of their bracket in Division II, the GNC teams are in Division II, along with Pacelli. But basically, it's a GNC tournament all over again in the bracket. Because in hockey, there's about 50-plus teams in Division I, only 32 teams in Division II. So 4 brackets of 8 teams each. In Division I, you got 4 brackets of anywhere from 13, 14, 15 teams each, or 13 to 14. So again, it's almost as though, do you want to win the conference tournament and then have to do it all over again?
Well, in that regard, you don't have a choice. And I we've mentioned this off air and talked about that tournament. Do you want to see these teams that much again? And they have it. It's rolling in, and for obviously for their conference, it's something they continue to enjoy to do, which is why they have it. But I think it's at that time when you play the conference one to be the best team out of that, and then you got to go back into the playoffs, and you lose, you're done. So you don't have an option other than to play it as hard as you can.
And finally, girls hockey, the Central Wisconsin Storm continues to roll. They are ranked number 2 in the state. They are now 16-3 overall last Friday. A good road win against the Western Wisconsin Stars, 3-0. Our student athlete guest from last week, Claire Kalmus, had a shutout, so there was no big high school sports show jinx for our student athlete last week. And then last night, the Storm win again on the road, 6-1 over the Wisconsin Valley Union, and the Storm had 6 different goal scorers in that game. Up next for the Storm, big battle. Number 2 ranked Storm, number 1 ranked Superior, be played up in Superior Saturday afternoon. I will be heading on the bus with the team and making the long. My Saturday is completely filled because the bus leaves at 7 a.m. I don't know when we're getting back. It's going to be a long trek, but looking forward to it. I mean, when it's 1 versus 2, doggone it, I have to go.
Yeah, well, you can't get any better than that.
I can't miss that. So we'll be on the air, 1:50 for the pregame, 2 o'clock for the opening faceoff. The Storm and Superior already played once back in the championship round of the Culver's Cup tournament in Madison between Christmas and New Year's. Superior won that one 3-2. And then there's not that many teams right now in girls high school hockey. There's in the upper 20s. And you got number 1 Superior, number 2 Central Wisconsin, and number 5 Hayward, all in the same 6-team bracket, the sectional. I mean, it's just
it's hard.
It is such
a feat.
It is such a difficult bracket to be in. You're going to see 2 potential state teams knocked out. There's going to be 1 potential team knocked out in the sectional semifinal. So again, it's going to be interesting to see this one, and then they could do it all over again in just a few weeks with a state tournament bid on the line. So it should be very interesting. Anything else to add?
No, not on hockey.
Okay, we're going to take a break, come back, and look ahead in terms of the good matchups in the next week in high school basketball. It's the Big High School Sports Show, Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible. Because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
If you're looking for your next ride, check out Mankey GMC in Schofield. Formerly Fred Miller Automotive, Mankey GMC serves Schofield, Wausau, Marshfield, and Stevens Point with a huge selection of new and pre-owned vehicles. Explore a range of top-notch SUVs like Acadia, Terrain, and Yukon, or choose from the rugged Sierra truck lineup, or even a certified pre-owned vehicle. No matter your dream vehicle awaits at Mankey GMC, 448 Grand Avenue in Schofield, and online at MankeyAuto.com. Mankey GMC in Schofield, where your journey begins.
Hungry for flavor-packed fun?
Dive into Red Robin's sizzling burgers, mouth-watering fries, and endless options.
Or maybe you're craving the perfect slice.
Then it's Donato's Pizza, your passport to pizza perfection.
Order now and treat yourself to an unforgettable taste experience.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza, 225548 Rib Mountain Drive in Wausau.
Call 715-301-0019 or log on redrobin.com.
Red Robin and Donato's Pizza.
Big High School Sports Show on Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230. Final segment. Time to look ahead as we get, it's hard to believe. We're getting down to the final few weeks of the regular season. We're starting February tomorrow, and obviously February is a big month. You finish off the regular season, then of course you head to the playoffs. A very exciting time, isn't it?
Well, and time flies. This 2 hours flies by for a secondly. But even when I was looking ahead at some of the game schedules, there's still some teams that have to get a handful of games in. And they're playing like you said, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. There's a couple teams that just came off Friday, Saturday, break on Sunday, and they play Monday, Tuesday already, and they've had 4 games in 5 days. It just flies, and it's too fast sometimes.
When you look at the upcoming game, let's start with the Valley. Obviously, I think the big one this week will be Friday night. Wausau East on a Friday night a couple of weeks back defeated Stevens Point. Lumberjacks have had a little time off. They should be ready to go against the Marshfield team that's been playing a lot, and another road game for the Marshfield Tigers. But when I saw, we didn't have a chance to talk about last week, but the week before, Marshfield played at Wausau West, and I was very impressed with that team in terms of how they played. It's obviously a well-coached team. It's a very solid team. They beat East by, I think, 20 or so the first time around. This Marshfield team, I think, is the real deal.
Yeah, I mean, Marshfield right now, they're sitting in the driver's seat, and so the target's on the back. They, as I talked about before in the earlier segment, when they played Spash, it was just kind of a steady waiting for your opponent to make the mistake. And the first time when they played East, they they had the upper hand. They played a good game. East struggled a little bit in that one. So I think for East, if a chance to come out and nothing, sometimes I hear that the conference is down to just a team, but they're sitting there 2 losses behind. If they can peg Marshfield on Friday, you can sit right back and hop into the top of that conference and be right back in the talk. And they've played well with the couple of the tight ones they've had in balance, and seeing the defensive side pick up the ball and make that transition into the offense and play really well. And for East, they have Marshfield Friday, and Saturday they go play Madison Memorial. And I want to run into Coach Garrett and ask him if some of that is by design, to start thinking, of our team getting ready for the playoff. We're playing that Friday-Saturday combo. So I think
they have a snow makeup game on Monday in Merrill, so that's a busy time.
Yeah, a lot of games in a little time. I think that's going to be a war at the East Gym. I mean, Marshfield's coming in, won the last one. East coming in, trying to get back what they didn't feel they did in the first one. And there's things here. For Marshfield, you want to stay in the driver's seat. For East, you get to take back a little bit of the top part of that conference and chip away at the lead they have. So I think that's a big game. It's going to be a fun game, great environment. You got two teams with some balanced attacks, play a little bit different style. East likes to get up and down a lot, and Marshfield likes to wait for you to make your mistake.
Any other games that kind of jump out to you? I kind of interested to see if Everest can build on the momentum of their win last night. They do have a tough one against Spash, a road game at Merrill Tuesday. I think this Everest team, again, has that potential to be a team that is a lower seed when it comes down to it, because they got kids who can put it in the hole.
Yeah, I think the Everest Spash matchup's obviously very intriguing, because Everest has been competitive, lost some tight ones, but they're hanging around. They beat Mosinee, which is a nice win against a good basketball team. You're going to want to look to continue that momentum against Spash. And for Everest, while the conference record might not be what they want, kicking some momentum into getting out of the games what they feel they might deserve, and playing that spoiler role is what I think they're going to be. They're going to creep up on people. They're going to get a couple here at the end of the season they shouldn't. And that might happen right away when they play Spash on Friday. Because, again, I watch Spash as good a basketball team as they are. They have mistakes that they made at the key points in the Marshfield game, which gave Marshfield control. So I think they're looking for some consistency in that game also.
Great Northern Conference. I think Mosinee has an opportunity to lick some wounds with their couple of games, and I guess the big one will be tomorrow when Medford tries to move into a tie with Rhinelander. Medford hosting the Hodags tomorrow night. Looks like the big game in the GNC.
Right, and for Medford, we know that they've had a lot of success over the last couple of years. A lot of guys that can put the ball in the basket, and it's just hard to tell you what their consistency is. They'll play a tough non-conference schedule. They'll get a win over one of the top teams in the conference. They'll turn around and West handled them on when they played on Tuesday there. So I think that'll be interesting when those implications are set where you're fighting for another spot in the conference. I think it becomes a big game. The nice thing is, the Rhinelander gym, like Coach Lindsey said, is nice and cozy. So, they'll be Medford will have the home court advantage, but not an easy place to play there. So I think that's a big game, which can create a tie and give Mosinee some breathing room if Medford pulls it off.
Merriwood South, a lot of crossover games, a few intriguing non-conference games, but no matchups between the league people.
Yeah, I mean, I ran into Coach Jacobson for Marathon this weekend, and I talked to some of the coaches yesterday because they have Pacelli Thursday. But
live here on Bow Falls Radio tomorrow night with Tom Weaver on the call.
Yeah, but they said a little bit different, makeup with some of the injuries that they had and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see, where Pacelli stands. And that would have been a monster game if full lineups were intact for that one. But nonetheless, another non-conference game for Marathon. Not seeing anything too big. Kind of curious where Rib Lake stands. If I'm able to get over and see them a little bit against Rib Lake Friday.
Against Newman.
Newman Rib Lake is what I'm going with to see how they're playing on Friday. But other than that, nothing too big in terms of those crossover games.
Any of the other games within boys high school basketball stand out?
I'm looking quick down my list.
Yeah, I don't really.
It's more so in that it's those big ones that stand out are a couple in the Valley and Great Northern.
Let's turn to girls high school basketball. In terms of the Wisconsin Valley Conference, you look. We're still. I mean, right now in the Valley, I think probably the biggest game will be for third place tomorrow night. Wausau West and Wisconsin Rapids. In the battle at the top, we have to wait for the second meeting between Marshfield and Stevens Point. But when you look at some of these matchups, I mean, there's not anything that kind of jumps out.
It's top of the conference versus teams that are in the lower half of the conference, and I think that it kind of solidifies itself in either what was done the first time around. Merrill. It's next Tuesday versus Spash. They've been spoiler, but Spash is playing some great basketball right now. I think that's going to be a tough one. And then, like you said, other teams are kind of going to, own who they've really owned already early in the season. But
actually, the East Rapids game is one that's going to be because they played a pretty tight game earlier in Rapids. And East has them at home on Tuesday, and I know that they would love to get at least one more of these conference games in the win column. With so many seniors, again, I think they really want to finish off well.
Yeah, in finishing strong and getting a team that you had one on the ropes the first time around, you're going to want to push your team to get that. But definitely looking down the list, that playing for third place and that between Rapids and West is going to be the big one out of those games that are coming up.
Great Northern Conference, obviously right now Lakeland is the team to beat. You got them hosting Mosinee on Monday. Obviously, Mosinee had a little struggles before their win last night at Amherst. But I think a lot of these games will be about how many points Christina Womet can put up. Because, again, I mean, seeing her in person Monday night, and it's not just the three-point shooting, it's the range. I mean, she was shooting 23, 24-footers, draining them. 7 in a row to start the game. I mean, you don't see – that's practice level stuff with nobody in your face. I mean, it was that impressive.
Well, and her height allows it. It's not a blockable shot. So even you take that into the equation that she can shoot right over the top of people that if they would come out that far and guard her. But obviously Lakeland's in the driver's seat in that conference, just kind of looking to clean up and sustain wins that are going to solidify their seed, solidify them rolling into the playoffs, solidify that conference championship. Looking at any of the other games there. Nothing big stands out. Right. Rhinelander's got a non-conference against Three Lakes and Phelps, so they'll stand in. They're not going to change in terms of there. And for Mosinee, I think when they see Lakeland that second time, just looking to play them better the first time, whether that's a score differential, because the wins unfortunately going to be tough to come by, but they're going to try to accumulate too because they're coming off the tough losses to Medford and Neelsville, picking up the Amherst one. Should beat Anago on Friday, so Lakeland's kind of their next tough test, because then after that they're going to roll around and play a back-to-backer where they got Northern Pines on Tuesday, and they'll beat Northern Pines.
And anything in terms of the Merriwood that jumps out? I don't see any of the big matchups at this coming week.
But I guess for little you got a couple crossover games where I'm assuming maybe some teams are looking to play or get that win. When those teams come down in their gym, for Newman Catholic, more wins you can get to build with the group where you have most of your players returning, I think are a big deal at this time in the season. So looking to get Rib Lake. They've got Stratford next. Get a win against Stratford the second time around. The Edgar Auburndale. Auburndale should own that one. Edgar has Phillips, which is going to be challenging, I think. And just looking down the list, some of those other games are going to be owned. I guess the most intriguing would be to see if Athens, what they can do against Assumption. Yeah. That's tomorrow night. Yeah, see what Athens do against Assumption tomorrow night.
In our last 2 minutes, I'm going to throw something out there because I had a chance to talk to Melissa Womet before the game on Monday, the Lakeland coach. She is not happy that Notre Dame Academy has been put in their bracket in D2 this year. And today, the nominations for the Miss Basketball came out, and 2 of the 5 are from Notre Dame Academy. And she said, and she's one of those folks that said, and she said, you can quote me on this, private schools should have their own tournament.
Yeah. Well, you want me, so go?
Yeah. I mean, again,
excuse me. I don't know the history of every school.
Real fast, just to put perspective again on this. I don't know what I was going to say. This coughing fit is making me nuts.
So, I mean, I get there's different levels of that. I don't know what the answer. You know, they've talked about multipliers. I'm on the bias of it since I've been in Catholic school. And there's hammering for recruitment. Well, I can tell you if you come walk the doors with us and what we're always trying to fight to do, there aren't kids kicking in the door getting recruited there.
Right.
I'm not saying that can't happen in a different city, in a different place with other measurements, so to speak. But for Newman Catholic in Wausau, there aren't recruitment issues, which I think is one of the number one complaints of why they want that broken apart. Now, how to have 2 players in? How often do you see 2 players from one team in there? That doesn't help things look good. It makes it a little different. Are they deserving? I have no idea. I've never seen these kids play. I don't even know their stats.
Of course they are. I mean, they would not be nominated if they weren't deserving.
So if they're deserving, then they're in there. But as far as, I don't know if there's an answer for the people that are on the side where it's not fair, but I would say most schools that I see, there's not recruitment issues, which is where people are calling it
And the whole
unfair.
thing is, for too many people, it's if any private school is good, that's too many private schools. They're fine with it as long as they stink, and that's not right either.
Right.
I mean, again, you look at the numbers in terms of the number of championships being won by private schools. It's actually a lower percentage than the number of schools participating. It just, again, I can see there's frustration because it makes getting to state much more difficult. But
at the end of the day, with everybody, with what you're doing, you got to beat who you got to beat to get to state. So whether that's a team showing up from Green Bay, a team showing up from here, you might not like it and you don't want them there. But if you're the true competitor, you should be at the end of the day. You got to go through whoever gets in your way and you go win it or die trying to make it the best experience for the team, whether you're playing on or coaching or whatever. So
all right, we got to wrap it up.
Sounds good. Another 2 hours in.
There you go. Thanks for joining us. Big High School Sports Show, Bull Falls Radio, 98.9 and 1230.
WXCO 1230 AM, W255DN Wausau, streaming at bullfallsradio.com.